In the previous video, we discussed the knowledge construction view of learning and how that view evolved from earlier learning theories. One of the key differences calls for learners to be active participants in learning, meaning they need to engage in active cognitive processing of new information. Today we will delve deeper into the principles and processes that affect learning. Authors Clark and Mayer outline three significant processes that learners must engage in to result in significant learning. First, learners must select the correct words and images to pay attention to. Once selected, learners need to organize those words and images into a coherent, personal representation of new knowledge. Finally, as that individual representation of knowledge is formed, learners must integrate such new knowledge with pre-existing knowledge already in long-term memory through the process of encoding. In future videos, we will discuss strategies related to each of these learner processes that can enhance the quality of learning that ultimately occurs. There are three corresponding principles that impact how effectively students can pay attention, organize, and encode new information into long-term memory. Those principles are dual channels, limited capacity, and active processing. Dual channels accounts for the fact that most processing that happens during a multimedia presentation happens either through a visual channel, what students see, or through an auditory channel, what students hear. Limited capacity is the natural bottleneck that happens during learning. Essentially, we can only pay attention to a limited number of stimuli at any given time, meaning our ability to process new information is subject to a cognitive plateau. Only so much information can be learned at one time. Finally, after learners have selected the appropriate information to pay attention to and organized it into a coherent mental representation, the principle of active processing relates to how new information is ultimately incorporated with what we already know. This results in encoding, where new information passes into long-term memory and can be later recalled and further expanded upon as needed. In our next video, we'll do a deeper dive into the stages of memory involved in the learning process, before we transition to strategies aimed at maximizing the potential for learning.